Seek and you will rise.
Hi, you're watching the Rise with Rishi podcast, and today I'm being interviewed on my very own first episode by my best mate, Ranjit Dillon. How you doing, Ranj?
How's it going, guys? Good to be here and glad to get this thing started.
Yeah, finally, it's taken us how long to do
It's taken
this?
a few years, I think. We did try one time about a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
2 years ago. We tried to do one together, but it's better doing it separately, we know.
yeah, we're on different journeys, so
Yeah, and getting 3 people, it's long to organise, wasn't it? But now we're finally here, and yeah, this is the time. The best time is now. So I'm looking forward to interviewing you today and to start it off, to kickstart your journey, your podcast journey. And obviously, we've been on a massive journey. You yourself, me, myself as well. So we've been on a massive journey, it's 100%. So today, I'm going to be here just to chat with Rishi and just to talk about his life, his journey, and some of the most profound things that he's learned. And definitely it's for you, the viewers. And hopefully you can learn something. And yeah, really excited to get this thing started today, finally. So we'll start off first. So firstly, Rishi, how are you doing?
yeah, I'm really good, thanks. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm nervous but excited at the same time, to be honest.
That's it. Main thing is to be authentic.
Yeah.
You know, if you're feeling that, then obviously over time it will.
Yeah, I think this is the right time to do this now. So we've been going on about this for so long, and
Yeah.
it's one thing
been-
or another. We haven't aligned, and I think now's the best time to go for it. And yeah, we've got all the equipment and we're ready to go.
So without further ado, let's get started. So you brought me here on your podcast to ask you some questions. Things like, what was your childhood like?
Yeah, so as you know, childhood. Oh, where can I start? Really? Well, we lived as most Indians did back in the 90s, growing up as one big family.
You've got quite a few cousins as well.
Yeah, my cousins. Yeah, I got a big network of boys and girls, really. And yeah, our childhood was really fun, to be honest. We used to always have parties, like everyone going around to each other's houses, and you know,
You're watching the cricket.
cricket. Actually, we had one TV. I remember we used to go to my Bibi's house, which is grandma, and we used to all watch cricket around her house back in the day. And yeah, it was different because it was much safer to go around and play in the park and you know, just be outdoors. Nothing like today and how the kids are basically you know, always online, or we don't have any of that. We don't have the internet. So yeah, very different. But
100%. But okay, so following that, like obviously childhood, we have good memories, but also there are memories which can be worse, which can be a bit traumatic. So I want to ask you, next question is like, what would you say impacted you in adulthood from your childhood, subconsciously, subliminally?
So there's quite a lot of things that really impacted me. My childhood was very, I'd say now, dysfunctional, and there was no consistency in terms of I wasn't rooted in a place really, and there was always something going on, one thing or another. So I was quite unsettled as a child. 1 minute I was in Albury, and the next I might be somewhere else, and that continued for years and years.
Like what other place? Why would someone put you in a different place?
So there
Apart
was basically my parents actually had disagreements when we were growing up, and that really impacted us as children. However, there was also other things that were happening in the family at the same time, which also impacted everyone generally as a family. So it kind of like disconnected us away from the family for a certain period, and then you know we'd be back. And
But like, do you want to go into, because I know you were raising money for what was it, for the Sandwell when you did that run?
oh yeah. So like a part of my journey when I was a child, I actually ended up in a women's refuge, and there was some
So
circumstances.
the whole family, you and your sister, brother.
me, my brother, my sister, and my mum. So you know, but after no fault of our own, really, and certain things that had happened during a time in the late 90s, we ended up being in a women's refuge. So yeah.
So how long? How long were you there for?
So I think approximately about a year, if I can remember right.
So you're not living in your house, living in a women's refuge.
Yeah, so it's about
families.
a year. Yeah, so I've looked at some pictures, and I think it's roughly about a year.
You know what? I didn't even know that. I've known you for so long now. I didn't know that you spent a year there.
So yeah.
At what age were you then?
So I think it was about year 5, I'd think.
Okay, so you're about 10 years old.
Yeah, I think I was about 9 or 10.
10 years old.
It's got to be after 96, 97 time, I think. Yeah, 97.
Yeah, that's what's at 9.
Yeah,
10 years old. So what was it like spending a year in a women's refuge? Were you in one room? Was there a few rooms?
So what I can remember from it is it's a whole building complex on 2 levels. So you walk in and you've got a reception bit. And what I can remember is there's individual flats with 1 bedroom, 1 living room, and it's basically a contained flat. So I remember that we were there for some time, and there was a lot going on with my mum and dad at that time, and obviously my family. For us to basically the reason for us to be there, but we later obviously we went back home and stuff. Some things are obviously unfortunate, like I'm not blaming my family for what happened, but there's obviously reasons for that, why it happened, and it kind of like molded me into what I am today, really.
So what impact did it have on you staying in a women's refuge for a year when you're 9 to 10 years old?
So I really missed home and my family. I was really connected to my dad's side a lot, especially my grandmother. So for me, I remember running to the phone box from the refuge and ending up doing a reverse call. If any of you out there know what one of them is, I used to reverse call my grandma. Another part of it was I was really close to my grandma. Like I was so there was 4 girls before me. That's my cousins, and I was the first grandchild born into the family. So everyone loved me. Everyone loved Rishi, as they'd say. So it was really like a special relationship I had with like my grandmother, my aunts, and my cousins and my sisters. And my own siblings, really.
So obviously we're being surrounded by alcohol. Like, I've done a separate talk about that myself. But how do you think that impacted you as growing up? Because I remember there's like how many of us in high school, as soon as we're 15.
I remember the school disco.
Yeah, I remember 15, yeah. I mean, even before that in year 10.
Yeah, we started early, year 9, I think.
Yeah.
We used to, I remember having a flat.
It's true. Even
we used to link up all the time and just get up to no good, really.
Yeah, right. Get some beers in.
Yeah, I think we started drinking early, and I think we didn't know anything else, really, in a sense. So everyone was doing the same thing, and I think our group of friends, and they were probably going through similar situations at home with their mum and dad, and it was
within our group of friends, obviously.
Like Smethwick, being from Smethwick, it was just a norm, really, like having drink, and then we started going to parties, and then we used to just get absolutely to a point where we'd black out, really, and you'd get, you'd end up on the main screen at the wedding.
True, it's happened many times. And so it was actually year 8, actually, when obviously we got beers in, and the vast majority of our friends, their dads were alcoholics too. Yeah, but we never talked about it.
We didn't never talk about it.
I never talked about it.
And some of our mates' parents, dads, passed away at that young age, and that was alcohol related. I can remember my dad's friends passing away from alcohol at the time, such a young age, and leaving kids that were either like teenagers. And how hard that would have been for a mum to basically bring them up.
But even then, obviously, our friends, some of them lost their dads. Obviously, alcohol was a factor, but never talked about it. And obviously, for them, they'll be on their own journey. But for us, anyway, we were still surrounded by alcohol. And in the 90s, obviously, it was normal for any British child is, if you look at the graphs,
Yeah.
to be drinking, like, you know, there's a highest point was around about the 90s, but up until the mid 2000s, and we were obviously caught up in that, like, you know, that in the around the year 2000 and the millennium. So obviously for us, it impacted us, and it was just normal for us just to go to the park in year 10. I remember we had like work experience, get a bottle of Bacardi, and then obviously in year 10, we end up in a park, you end up in hospital.
Yeah, I can remember.
Stomach pumped.
Yeah, I think I ended up in hospital at
Yeah.
my work experience week, really, if I can remember.
Yeah, it was year 10.
And I remember my dad.
15 years old.
Oh my God, yeah. I can't actually remember what happened, but I remember drinking in the park and then staggering home. And then I think I was found in the street. And
You found it in the gutter, apparently.
was it the gutter? Yeah, probably the
So
gutter.
you can actually say that I was raised.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, that just shows that I was abusing alcohol at such a young age, and I was so used to it. It had just become a part of me, I think. And there was a lot of things that I did not know about. And I don't think I love my parents, and I don't think they actually knew how to deal with these sort of things, because they weren't educated, but they worked hard and they brought us up as best as they could with whatever they had. And, you know, me, I was doing a solo thing where I was just going out all the time and hanging with different groups of people. But I was looking for that love that I never probably got at home, because with dad working so much all the time, it kind of got filtered down to mum looking after us. And she would have had her own pressures and the dynamics between what was going on in the families. Everything was a pressure back then, you know, socially, economically, and culturally, things were different. So I think there was loads of factors. I just turned to kind of alcohol for comfort, really.
Growing older, 18, 19, 20, this carried on. We'd go parties. Me and you used to drink like fishes, and the rest of us did, to, like, you know, prove we were like men and, like, you know, our old influences. And that's all we knew, because we didn't have role models, any role models.
We didn't have no role models at all. Like, I remember every track was about, remember Hold Glassy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so every track was about drinking. That's all we knew. And we spent most of our times, I think, especially when you were Punjabi lads. And do you remember going to the daytimers?
Yeah,
we used to do daytimers all the time. Do you remember when we organised one?
Oh yeah, we used to organise quite a few. But them days, obviously, like, look, I was got 3 sisters, only boy in the family, so I was just going out loads.
Yeah.
Right, and we would all just meet up at the park, and a lot of people listen to this can relate to that sort of thing. You know, going to a car park, getting spirits, or whether it's like WKD or whatever it is. And obviously now that's changed, reversed.
Oh, massive.
Kids now don't do that sort of thing, and they think, why would you drink in a car park? Why would you do that?
I even think sometimes, Ranj, why were we actually doing that? Why didn't we go to the pub like a normal person? Like,
we did go to the pub as well.
Well, we did, yeah.
But it was cheaper to get hammered.
Yeah, it was cheaper.
In the park, instead of spending like
I can remember getting £3 a day off my dad. And most of the days, I used to spend that money on alcohol. Like, that's how bad hit I'd got. But I still hadn't realised how much of an addiction it is until I probably started working, and then it continued into my married life, really. And then yes,
it's true. I mean, obviously, it's carried on into your early 20s.
Yeah, it was fun. It was just, I was always looking for that fun, really. That's what it was for me. Like, get smashed, blackout, go home, and then some days I'd want it the next day. That's how bad
it was. Regular. I mean, obviously, like, after, for me, university, 23 years old, I took a different path at 24 to quit alcohol and to go the spiritual path for me. And you were there when I had my last drink. Went to Amsterdam, right? And on the plane back, I specifically remember having that Heineken and looking at you and saying, "This is my last one now."
Yeah, I remember calling you the week after saying you're coming out, and you were like, "Nah." You must have been like at home shaking and stuff. So the fear of missing out, like, but yeah, like it was interesting, because I remember like picking you up sometimes, and you'd be like, you know, I'd be picking you up and
I'm not drinking.
Hey,
and you mean like,
no, like drunk, like picking you up sometimes, or you'd go missing from the house.
Yeah, that's a story for another time, that is. But Yeah, that was me. I mean, for me, alcohol was a release. It was an escape. And it was something that, but I didn't realize how much it affected us because what goes up must come down. So at 24, obviously, I quit drinking and you carried on. And I still watched you because as someone working for the council, 9 to 5, for you, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, was just getting mashed up week on week. And I would see weeks where you just like, for whole years, every single week, you'd be smashed. And I would even say to people like, every single week. How many years that carried on for? I would say 8, 9 years.
Yeah, it was all the time. It's like I can remember going to the pub sometimes on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It became like a regular thing until like before COVID, I think. And the thing is, things had changed since I got married. Yeah, then I cut it down to, because I had to cut it down. But at the start of obviously my marriage, it was pretty, pretty much normal. Like we were still young. Like the lads used to come out all the time. We'd be sessioning in the car park after playing football at goals. So things were normal. Like this was a normal thing. A part of us just meeting up. Every excuse was should we get a drink or what's going on? And
yeah, that's how you socialize.
Yeah, that's how we were socializing. We didn't do anything different.
But I do remember when I got introduced to your wife after you got married, or even before you got married, and I said to her, remember this, I said, you've got 2 husbands. You've got a sober Rishi and you've got a drunk Rishi. So both of those are very different people.
Yeah.
And I remind her about that. And she goes, yeah, you're right, man. Because for me, I think for yourself, alcohol wasn't a good look for you because obviously for all of us, it'd bring out more of the ego, right? We'd be more egotistical, more self-orientated, and obviously we do things which were silly and think, why are we even doing that? Say words you wouldn't say before normally. And just like even obviously you're not an aggressive guy, but maybe sometimes you could have been.
Yeah, I think sometimes like I was growing up very cheeky sort of guy. And I might be saying something like, like people who know me, just know me, Rishi's like that. But people used to get really wound up if I'd say something and that might cause a kick off. And like, I think a lot of the time, anything where I found that I was alcohol related, it would just attract negative energy towards me. And yeah.
Looking back, what do you think impacted you the most growing up?
So there's a number of things, Ranj. I think the main one would be the dysfunction in the family and not being rooted and settled in one place. There was a lot of obviously issues that were going on that I won't go into too much today. I think that majorly impacted me developing into an adult. And I carried that forward into my adult life and kind of just let it become me.
Another question I wanted to say was, can you share a story when you first realized alcohol or addiction more generally was becoming a part of your life?
So it was actually when my son was born. I can remember my son at about age 6 weeks, and my wife used to go to sleep and little man used to go sleep. And I used to leave the house to go on my daily walk. But my daily walk was going to the shop and getting beers and sometimes even spirit and knocking them back within that half an hour at the bus stop. And basically doing that every single day. And that's when I kind of realized that this is getting out of hand. And I was walking up one of the streets one day and kind of having some sort of psychosis in a sense where something was telling me, you need to stop doing this. Otherwise, you're going to go down a similar route to, your role models, really. So that was kind of the wake-up call. 2021, I'd say. 2021. Yeah. Oh, should we start that again?
That's okay. No, carry on. Just say wake up was around 2019, 2020.
Say no.
By 2020, because when he's 2 months old, he's
December. Yeah. So the wake up call was really in the winter of 2020, and that's kind of when I thought I need to change my lifestyle, my eating habits, literally everything, because I could see myself going down a road where I could have potentially left my wife and son on their own in a situation that was caused ultimately by my addiction to alcohol.
So, what helped you begin your journey away from alcohol and addiction?
So I'd always been spiritual, and there was always signs, and I'd always ensured that I was doing mantra meditation at home. So there was always that sort of kind of like the positive energy on that side, but it'd always get overtaken by the negative habits that were kind of part of me, really. And it was gradual. So when I started my journey and when I started to exercise and start to run, I slowly started to get away from alcohol. And then when I used to drink, I used to get sick the next day. And I mean, I could have 4 beers and I'd be being sick the next day. That's how bad it had got. And I think we even had a conversation one of the Christmases, and I was absolutely in a bad place, um, experiencing auditory hallucinations. I was experiencing them at one point, and I'd gone into depression mode when I'd moved out of my parents' property and moved to my home. And I think because I wasn't rooted anywhere ever, I think that really impacted me. So it brought all the anxiety, the depression, the paranoia, the psychosis, the auditory hallucinations, and it was all happening at once. But at that time, I didn't realize that it could have been an actual spiritual awakening. Um, but I did go to the NHS and get counselling, and then continue to cut down alcohol. And it was only until I really decided in my mind that I need to stop this, because it was still impacting my life. So for me, there was my son's element. He was growing up. He had his own issues in terms of having a speech and language delay, and I really needed to focus on him. And that made me really look deep within myself.
So, were there people, practices, or places that supported your healing process?
So like, I would say 90% of the work I've done myself. And that was, I changed my diet, cut out all the processed foods. I ate more fruit and veg, raw based. I started to run. So I joined a running club local to myself, and I went to the gym, and I kept consistent. And I really struggled for the first 3 months when I stopped. I was like grieving, like somebody had died basically.
So, when you stopped, it was October 2024, was it?
October 2024, yeah.
So, the first 3 months were.
Yeah, first 3 months were like somebody had died basically. It was that bad. But I was headstrong because I decided that that was the end of it. I think I remember saying to my wife in the kitchen, I said, "Oh, I'm not going to drink again." And like like probably 100 times I've said to her before, she just brushed it off at that time and probably thought, "You ain't going to do it." But I was really headstrong about it that time. Something was just telling me that this is time. And I do believe that I was given Hookham. So yeah, like I remember going to Soul Revolution. They did a New Year's retreat, and I can remember the journey down. It was pouring down in rain, and I was on my way to um, Cardiff Mill area, and I was listening to Gurbani in the morning, and I went through the whole process that day. It was very emotional, overwhelming, happiness, and on the way home, I remember it being a clear sky. The stars were out, and I feel that was the moment I realized that there's a command here now. I've been given Hukam, and I can either take it or carry on the way and turn my back on God or the universe that was giving me that message at that time, to basically saying, this is now your opportunity, take it or leave it. And that was part of the link to October time where I'd stopped and I hadn't touched any drink, but it was now time to remove the alcohol from my house because it could no longer be in that house.
It no longer serves you, really.
No. And I could not, the switch, although it felt like it wouldn't have never happened, sorry. It was just, I was ready and something was guiding me. Something higher was telling me and guiding me the right way.
So how did self-realization come into play in your recovery? Like that spiritual self-realization?
So I've always been a person who meditates and does mantra. I've always had self-belief. I believe the things that I went through in my life, and they say your soul chooses your parents when you are first born. So I feel that I had gone all through that process of happiness, sadness, grief, loss of my grandma, loads of things happening in the family, and then growing up and being addicted to alcohol and kind of being the black sheep and doing my own thing when I should have been spending time with my family, which I didn't. I feel that that was all meant to happen because when my son was born, it it was like God himself had been handed to me. And that was actually a profound moment. And when they handed him to me, all I could hear was silence. And all these things that happen and circumstances, they all started to add up. Was this part of my journey? I chose this so I could be here right now. And I really respect that. So everything I'd been through, everything I've learned, every person I've met, I see it all as a journey where I've learned something. And that's made me really powerful as a person, like really powerful. And I think that's what's kept me going and becoming so headstrong about who I am now and how I'm rooted and my beliefs as a person.
Looking back, what advice would you give your younger self?
Well, I think the first thing is love yourself, and you are self-worthy, and anything associated with yourself first, because the only way you can really give love out is if you respect yourself, your body. And I wish I had done a lot of that back in the day. The signs were there, but I never really.
So would you say the universe is giving you sort of signs, things, but did you heed to the signs? Like, did you listen to them, or did you just carry on being your headstrong self? Well, from the ego perspective.
I think ego did take over, and I was used to that fun sort of life. So for me, it was more about being out and being that center of attention and just being Rishi, really. Rishi the fish, they used to call me. Remember?
Why?
Why? I used to, obviously, big fish. I was a big fish drinker. So I'd be the first one out, and the first one out, and the last one home.
Last on home, definitely.
Yeah.
And obviously, for many years, because I quit drinking, and I was telling you, you need to quit drinking, but not once in those sort of 13 years did you listen to me.
No, I didn't. And I think the thing
That's
is,
great.
I think the thing is, like, you have to be ready, really. And when I told you I was ready, and I think you must have heard it off me 100 times probably, or you've watched me.
More like 1,000.
Yeah,
really.
1,000, yeah. Like, you waited, 13 years for me on top of the mountain. So we said that, didn't we? But it's up to the person to really make a change in their life. You could have carried on for the next 10, 15 years. And if I wasn't ready, I would have ignored you and carried on, because I was so blinded by what was going on. All I could see was that one track. And now I can see where I am today. I can see where I'm going, and I can see the end destination because it's all in front of me now. And I can see clearly now. And back then I couldn't see anything. Now, if I think about something, I want something, I'm able to
Manifest.
manifest it in a sense. You know, I've learned that I was always good with my intuition, always. And I've always been good at judge of characters, my situations and energies. But now it's more clearer. I know where I'm going. I know who I am. I know who I need to have around me. I just know what my destination is now. Before, if you'd asked me even a year ago, I was still in my head. I was probably procrastinating about things or always thinking the past, the present, the future, like never in the moment. I could never be that person. But now I sit in the moment but I can also see what's happening in the future.
So, what is the destination you're talking about?
Well, for me, it's about continuing on this journey and being surrounded by the right people. That's Sangat.
Sangat meaning?
Sangat means being in congregation of people that are, you know, similar, have similar morals. You know, they might be spiritually inclined to Vaheguru, for example, or Lord Shiva.
You call it whatever, it's the same.
Yeah,
thing,
it's
isn't it?
it's just like a community. Being around that community now is really important for me because I've been in multiple communities and, you know, I've seen things and experienced things and been in the pubs and been in the parks and everywhere else. You name it, I've done it. But for me, it's more about spending time with the right people now and excelling in life, not just materially, but spiritually. I want to excel.
Yeah, so the journey is the destination really for yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's it. If someone listening today is going through a similar struggle to you, maybe when you're younger or now as a dad, what would you want them to know?
Well, firstly, they need to pick up the phone or speak to somebody like their best friend or family members because help is out there. And there is so many places that you can go to nowadays for support, but you have to be ready. And, you know, we're a social media age now where information's out there. So accessing it isn't as hard as it used to be before, but it's about reaching out, being honest with yourself firstly, and accepting that you might have an issue or a problem and taking that step forward. And also, it's okay if you have a relapse. It's fine because that's part of your journey and that will make you stronger each time you have a relapse. And I relapsed for years and I never really said that, oh, I want to quit for good. It was always just a process where I'd stop for a couple of weeks and then have a break and like, you'll know when it's the right time. And as I said before, I felt that the hukam and the command aligned with my journey and it was always meant to be this way.
How do you see yourself today compared to the person you were before recovery?
Well, I see myself as a confident person, more headstrong. I'm more responsible. I'm looking after my son. I'm looking after the house. So I did all them things before, but I was functioning at a high level. So now I'm more present with my family. I've speak to my sister, my brother, keeping regular contact with them.
From me, like a friend's perspective, I can see, yeah, definitely the change in yourself. But as before, I would say like our like friendship has gone more closer now because you come up to more like my level now, I would say, because as like, you know, someone who's in sobriety now. Whereas before, I would, if you were drinking, I'd be like, oh, okay, what Rishi is it now? What version of it is it of yourself? But now I would say just like sort of one sort of more enlightened person, I would say. And where obviously, you know, when you were drinking,
yeah, because I could always
be around.
I could always feel it, Ranjit. Like it was only until I stopped drinking, I realized that you were doing these things. And I might have kind of not thought about it that much before, but I realized that, okay, you might not have kept in touch with me as much, or there was like I don't know, we might be somewhere and you might just leave. But like, I don't know, there was always that feeling deep down. I kind of knew. And I'd agree with you that now we're like more spiritually aligned and we kind of like on a journey together because we've always been on this journey.
So we met first in like, was it year 7, year 8? And then we had very similar things happen in our lives. We had, we went to the same high school and then colleges as well. And then when I was at university, we still kept in touch, still drinking loads as well. Or just doing whatever people do in their early 20s. And I remember like we even had like, similar times. We had long-term relationships at this sort of time with like, and it was crazy some of the synchronicities because even in the long-term relationships we had with those, girls, they're actually born on the same day, which is crazy. But I'm not sure we should be saying that. But it's just like there's similarities.
There's
and,
so
like,
many.
that I went through something, an enlightenment stage after university. I went through a depression, post-uni depression. And then afterwards, you kind of went through something similar as well.
Yeah, there's always like, it was always either you first and then me after. Like, but it's the same thing. Like our kids were born 6 weeks apart. I remember we had found out that, Priya was pregnant. And on the day that you announced the 3 months
on the WhatsApp group,
on the WhatsApp group, basically, you announced it. Obviously, we were pregnant as well.
So on that day, you found out that Priya was pregnant when I said to the
dad. So we knew the day before, but you had basically said it. The next day after. So it was always like now. So like our kids are like 6 weeks apart. So we've always been like. Intertwined in terms of our
in a way
intertwined.
When you quit alcohol and when you're more, more sure of who you are, you just laugh at everything off. Things don't really get to you as much. Things like within like spirituality, lots of things are Maya, and you understood the word Maya, but obviously when you're in the Maya, you don't understand that it's engulfing you. And now once you're out in a certain point of the Maya now. You can see things a bit more clearly. Obviously, your sixth sense, because you've always had that knack of something really weird. Like you sort of know when people in our friendship circle are having a baby as well, which is really weird. And you text me these sort of things like, what, someone's gonna have a kid? And then 3-4 months down the line, it really is. I'm like, okay, that's uncanny. Where it's been like, no one's having one for like about a year or two. So yeah, it is. I think you've always had that sort of, with the name Rishi as well. Rishi means...
So it means sage, seeker of the truth. So Rishis are God's people.
The more higher. Yeah, they're the seekers. And so it's always been in you. But now I think, obviously, quitting alcohol, those clouds around your mind, whether it is, mentally, your pineal gland or whatever it is, right? I think you're more in tune with the universe. And me myself as well, we see things like more numerology, whereas certain patterns, and people can say, what, isn't that just serendipity where you just see these numbers? But we can see these numbers, whether it's like angel numbers, 1111, 222, and there's different ones, and some people don't believe it, and I respect them, that's their journey. But we sort of know that on this journey you get synchronicity.
Everything's a pattern. And basically, I believe totally like in stages of things happening, and I'm more aware of my surroundings now. So, I might get a feeling or see numbers, and these things definitely do exist. But before, I was trapped in Maya, in my mind, in my own mind, and that's one of the worst things.
What does life feel like for you now, beyond addiction, like after recovery, more having a self-realization?
Well, so the last 10 months have been really amazing. Things have opened up for me faster in the last 10 months than they have ever in my adult life.
So since quitting alcohol, you've released a song with your son. We're doing a music video. You're writing a book now, Speech Heroes. So I just imagine like what you could have achieved if you quit alcohol earlier and had more of a recovery. But everything's happened in its own time when it was meant to be.
Yeah, everything's time. And yeah, I could have done all these things. Like I used to do gigs back in the day. So I was always into that sort of creative sort of music side. But with the speech heroes and the awareness about speech heroes, that really started off early after I'd stopped drinking. And I thought, because of Aryan having a speech today, I need to do something with this. And I need to be more focused. And I found that he had a lot of love for music and beats and rhythm and beatboxing. And I basically said to Priya one of the nights, why don't we record a track? And I think at the time, like anything I've said, it's kind of just been like, what's he on about? Or, it's just one of them things really. And that kind of has evolved into us recording the song, then doing a video shoot and raising nearly £2,000 for Speech and Language UK. And then a couple of months in, I decided I need to do something further with this. And we've got a kids book coming out now. So a lot of things are coming towards me in terms of themselves now. Things are happening. I'm attracting the right people, or, I'm being called to events or podcasts or being interviewed because people want to know my journey, and it's just everything's just happening itself.
So is there anything we haven't covered today? Anything you want to say to the viewers, the listeners?
Yeah, so I just want to really say thank you for watching, and there'll be more podcasts that I'll be filming over the next coming months, and you'll be able to follow us on YouTube and Instagram. I also want to say to people that the power is within themselves and they really need to access it. For me, that was calling out God. And once I called out God, God answered. There's a story that I'd like to just share quickly before we finish up. And it's to do with Draupadi in the Krishna story. She is being in a court, being humiliated by people. And she's calling her husband. She's calling her friends. Anyone who was in the court, she was asking them to help her because they were about to humiliate her. And, so she's called everyone, and then she calls Krishna. Krishna comes straight away. So then she asks Krishna, why did you not come before? And then Krishna says, if you had called me before you had called all these people, I would have come there and then. So I just want to leave that as my end note, that if you do call, God will answer.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Har Har Mahadev.
Seek and you